The dust is yet to settle on the recent public spectacle in the struggle to keep in custody the suspended central bank governor Godwin Emefiele between the Department of State Services and the Nigerian Correctional Service. Following that, many Nigerian lawyers again demanded a greater resort to the rule of law, not just in who keeps Emefiele, but also in the processes of prosecuting him. One of President Tinubu's ministerial nominees, Lateef Fagbemi, spoke about this during the screening before the Senate. We're now being joined for further discussion around this by Micheal Aondoakaa, the Senior Advocate of Nigeria, former Attorney General and Minister of Justice. We will also be bringing into the conversation the latest agreement between the federal government and the labor leaders. I want to say thank you for joining us this afternoon here on Newsday.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. It's good to have a legal mind here because what we've seen play out in the last couple of days concerning the ministerial screenings, the thoroughness of the screenings and the individuals that went through as well. We have quite a few topics to run through with you, but first of all, can you give us your opinion on these first two batches of screenings in comparison to how they were in the past? Do they do them justice? And are these ministers, are they put under enough scrutiny in order for them to carry out their jobs?
Well, the screening went very well, and the people the nominees were credible people. They spoke from their minds. That was a very important aspect of it, that most of them spoke their mind. For instance, my brother Sikh, Lateef Fagbemi, is a very understanding lawyer, one of the shining examples of our generation. He spoke his mind exactly, spoke the way he wanted to, the vision for rule of law. And that is an area that was very, very, very important. And I feel speaking his mind makes him a better candidate for the administration, because it looks like he's focused. If he's given the Ministry of Justice or the Office of Attorney General, he will dedicate himself to rule of law. I think it's very important. So the screening went very well. Thank you.
Now, talking of Mr. Lateef Fagbemi, he suggested that the president should merge the EFCC and the IPC and ICPC for thorough investigation and prosecution. He also spoke about government upholding the rule of law, saying most times the rule of law is not upheld due to interagency rivalry. I'd like to know what your thoughts are on these two issues.
Well, what he said essentially what I went through during the President Yaradua. When I came in from private practice just like he came in. And looking at the Constitution, we find that people's liberty is very, very protection of individual rights under Chapter 4 is very important. And the Constitution only gives windows in which those rights can be taken away, especially when it comes to prosecution, arrest. The Constitution is very explicit that arrest and charge somebody to court within 24 hours or at maximum 48 hours. So we felt that if that's my understanding, which I am happy and lucky that somebody of his stature is corroborating, is that investigation should be done. And by the time you are prepared to arrest, you should be ready to charge the person to court. It was my thinking, and then his thinking now, that investigation should be done. Investigation should not necessarily entail arrest. You can carry out your investigation. By the time you are already set, but it may look somehow to arrest somebody, detain him for a long time, that you are carrying out investigation. That will certainly be a violation of the Constitution. That's what he's saying. And that is what I said before, if you cast your mind back. And then if you go to the issue of measure of the agencies, there seem to be serious overlaps in functions of ICPC and EFCC. Serious overlaps in their functions. We felt there was need to streamline them so that they can function harmoniously. Most of the offenses sometimes fall within the category of ICPC, but they are taken to EFCC. And when you prosecute and you get to a certain stage in court, you say, no, this is not a money laundering matter. Ordinarily, they would have been convicted if you follow ICPC. So those are the things that, for instance, these are the things that I think agitating his mind. It actually agitated me. I felt there's need to streamline the functions so that there will be no overlaps. And if we discover that the one single agency will carry out the functions more efficiently, so be it. So that was me, but I didn't stay long. And then the dream has come again. Our dream is giving the portfolio of justice. There's need to look at this prosecuting agency. Mind you, all prosecuting agencies are prosecuting on behalf of the federal government, which they overrode. The Constitution donates the powers of prosecution to the Attorney General. So even if you have multiple prosecution agencies, the powers are derived only from the powers donated by the Constitution through the office of the Attorney General. So that has been, even though their laws may specifically say they can prosecute, but that does not in any way imply that they cannot prosecute in isolation with the powers vested in the Attorney General. So streamlining them will be desirable.
We certainly do hope that if he gets that portfolio for Minister of Justice, that he's able to streamline that within his purview. But speaking of overlapping and inter-agency rivalries, the show of shame a couple weeks back, it seems like a long time ago, but between the DSS and the agents of the Nigerian Correctional Services, in terms of who is going to keep Godwin Emefiele in their custody. We saw that play live on TV, and it was quite something. What do you make of it personally?
Well, I feel sorry for two ways. Sorry because it ought not to happen if there's agency synergy, because they ought not to struggle over who to. This is something their officers could have spoken to each other if there was need for that. Sorry in the sense that it ought not to have happened within the court premises, because the judges must have been right in the chamber, and most of the chambers have CC camera watching what happened. Judges are human beings. Prosecution is expected to be fair. When we take an accused person to court, our desire is for the public to know that the accused person committed a crime. And we always wish the public sympathy should be side on the prosecution, because we are prosecuting on behalf of the state. The moment steps are taken in such a way that we shift the public sympathy, it will not look fine, because the public will start looking at it as persecution. When you are prosecuted for crimes, the public is always with you, because the idea of society is to get rid of crimes. But when officers do certain things that will shift that public sympathy to the accused, it will become unfortunate. You know, if you see I'm very blunt, when Emefiele was arrested, generally there was that public support on the part of government that, he needs to stand trial and face armed charges. That was the expectations of ordinary Nigerians. But the moment that drama happened at the Federal High Court premises, people started thinking. I read a lot of emails. I saw the public sympathy that was on the side of government, and public sympathy was on the side of prosecution started moving away. What is going on here? What is going on? So that are kind of things that when we are prosecuting, we should try to avoid, because it makes the job of the prosecutor very difficult, in the sense that judges are also part of the society. And when such things happen, they read what happened. This one will happen, and it was shown, televised. almost all the judges in Nigeria saw it. So that could affect the ability of the prosecutor to present his cases very well in court, because the issue of prejudice start coming. People start looking suspicious of whatever evidence you are bringing. Issue of custody is supposed to be such a minor thing. There may be some element of protection on the side of SS if they have real evidence that if the person is going to be taken to custody, there could be some dire consequences to his life. They could have made that available to the correctional center, and they would have been able to solve that at their level without the public being dragged into. You understand? But the manner in which in dragging, whatever excuse they may have, which may be genuine, they have to take practical steps to remedy that. The SSS has been an organization well respected because of their discreet nature, and the operations are normally hidden, and the results are always very encouraging. The moment their operations become public knowledge and become subject to public discourse, their image may be affected. So they also have to work hard to overcome these challenges that occurred. The challenge that is trying to bring out some kind of dent. It's an organization that anytime they step into a matter, people have the perception that they do their job discreetly and the result only comes to the public. But now, what they do discreetly is becoming a matter of public display. So it's very unfortunate, and I believe. But I was in government as an incident like that happened. Sometimes it may not come from the top officials. There was a case where we wrote to the office of DPT to treat. Of course, if we write treat without writing treat and revert, the civil servant says you have the freedom. Before we could realize, we saw ministry officials, prosecutors struggling to take over a case file in court. It was a bit embarrassing, even though there was no authority expressly from us to them to go and take over. But because of that initial directive treat, they took it as a directive for them to go and take over. We did not specifically say go and take over in court. So some of the time the overzealousness of the officials involved in the ground operation can create a dent. It's something SS also has to look in and caution some of the officials that took part, and also the correctional center that both will ask them why. These are issues that can be handled amicably. But the overall effect is that at the end of the day, if an atmosphere is created for Mr. Emefiele to first trial, according to law and within the terms of bail granted, it will be very good for the image of the country and the judiciary. For now, I could see the kind of feeling the presidential nominee had, and that is the thinking of every lawyer, because that is our temper. And anybody coming to do such a thing in our temper, it is very natural that every lawyer of his standing, only lawyer will feel aggrieved, because the impunity right in the front of the court premises is not desirable at all.
No, but I'm wondering, is it justified, to blame, these agencies of government for the federal government not being able to uphold the rule of law? What then is the role of the Minister of Justice and the Attorney General of the Federation? Can't the Attorney General of the Federation wade in such matters and ensure that indeed the rule of law is upheld at all times?
We have always done that. Attorney General has always done that. I will tell you something that you won't believe. Sometimes it is as if the first thing they try to do, if Attorney General tries to make sure judges or sometimes judgments are complied with, it has the next thing you have the negative publicity of you protecting criminals. For instance, the law says grant somebody bail. Whether if he's charged for any offense and the court grants him bail, it is the duty of the Attorney General to ensure that he gets the bail. But by then already, the moment you do that, the next thing is that, Attorney General is always freeing criminals, not understanding the fact that you want the law to take its course. The law taking its course is a process. that does not fear anybody. So even if it's a criminal, the protection given by the Constitution is the presumption of innocence. When Attorney General does that, it's being rebelled. Attorney Generals have always been at the receiving end, trying to ensure that the agencies vested with prosecutorial powers do the right thing. And it's always been, Attorney General is always being painted as if they are with the criminals, which is the opposite. The Attorney Generals are with justice, the society, the justice. You are with the Constitution. The Constitution says you are presumed innocent. The Constitution takes you to the court. If the court grants you a power, the Attorney General makes sure that the court's order is complied with. It doesn't matter the erroneous crime you have committed. Because at the end of the day, if you are convicted, the Attorney General will see that you have gone to prison and serve your time. You cannot, but this negative publicity that is always given to the office of Attorney General, there's no Attorney General that has gone without such negative publicity. The moment you take a decision on the side of protection of life and property, the next thing, convenient thing to do is that he supports criminals. He supports criminals. And that is the problem. Attorney General does not have police. Attorney General does not have the coercive powers, but he has the law to advise that do the right thing. This is what the Constitution says. And this simple piece of advice, sometimes you are being labeled. So it's very unfortunate, but that is the reality. No Attorney General will sit down and say, if a court grants you bail, an agency or government should disobey. No Attorney General will condone that. And I believe the President Solicitor General must have, who is acting as Attorney General, must have also written to the agencies to the fact that that was not the correct thing to do. We do it every day. And mind you, the new Attorney General will face the same challenges. But an ideal society can only evolve where people do things according to law. And agencies of government that respect the law have more respect. If a prosecutorial agency respects the law, it will earn more respect from the public. And any conviction they earn, people take it that this agency is working. For instance, you arrest somebody. You give the person the bail. You ask him, you charge the person to court. You bring your witnesses. You get a conviction. Society will hear you. But where agencies of government thrives on detention, endless detention, that is show our might. And before you know, you will start having problems like the NCoS issue. That is where we have the police we're being accused of having a detention squad. That's what we are trying to avoid. We are trying to make sure that agencies of government that are vested with prosecutorial powers minimize the issue of detention and focus more on conviction. Detention occurs where is necessary in crimes that involves protection of the society. For terrorists, yes, you cannot just allow a terrorist to live on the streets, and the court should be mindful of that. You let the court know. A rapist, you cannot just allow a rapist to go freely on just like that so that he goes to commit a further offense. These are offenses that harms the society, not just but other offenses. No matter how desirable, bail conditions are stiff enough to ensure guarantee for the accused person to come because there's no further threat of harm to the society. And that is their thing.
Well, just for clarification's sake.
Hello?
Yes, can you hear me? All right, just wanted...
Yes, I can hear you very loud and clear.
Okay, perfect. Just wanted to clarify. Has the DSS violated the Constitution by coming up with charges after they arrested Emefiele? Is that what you're saying?
No, I am not saying that. I am not saying that. They must have had charges before they got the arrest. I'm not saying that at all. I don't want you to misquote me. I have all along said that what my Latif Fagbemi SAN said was that make sure you conclude your investigation. When you arrest, you are ready to go to court. That is the summary. I have agreed with that. But that does not mean that when you arrest somebody and time-shortly take him to court, finish your investigation time-shortly and take him to court, you have violated the Constitution. No. The scenarios we are talking here are completely different. We are saying that always ensure whatever you are doing by way of advice, by way of practical operations, ensure that when you arrest somebody for crimes, charge him to court within reasonable time as specified in the Constitution. And if the court grants bail, allow the person bail for the integrity of you as the prosecutor. Not only the person, the integrity of the fair trial that you are prosecuting.
All right, thank you very much for that. Let's quickly move on to another issue making the rounds, which is the back and forth between the federal government and labor unions. Yesterday, labor unions embarked on a nationwide protest, but that has now been shelved. Instead, they said they would dialogue with the federal government. Now, interestingly, before President Buhari left office, he inaugurated the Dangote refinery, which up till now is not yet operational. But yesterday, after labor unions embarked on their protest, the president says Port Harcourt refinery will commence operation in December 2023. How believable is this? What do you make of this back and forth between the federal government and labor unions while Nigerians are suffering under severe economic hardship?
Yes. No person will not say, even the president said Nigerians are suffering. And every right-thinking person in Nigeria knows that we are suffering. I remember the president said, there's no childbirth without pain. I remember I was on this channel and I said, you raise the issue of further taxation, especially that of going to the market with me. And I believe the president is a listening president, because when I cautioned that further taxation will worsen the situation. Let us see the gains of the palliatives. That what you have got, let's see the palliatives you have as a result of the removal of the fuel subsidy. The president seemed to roll out things yesterday. This gains is not only reflecting to the federal government, to the states. We have expected by now the states who are going to also be a beneficiary of what the gains, the excess money we have recouped from fuel subsidy, will be telling their citizens, this is what we are going to do to cushion the effect of the palliative. It's not a federal government issue alone. It's an issue of the federal government, the state, and even the local government, because they have excess funds as a result of the removal of subsidy. But the issue of being realistic is a matter of commitment. Our refineries, it's a matter of willpower of the president. If the president is a no-nonsense person and he says by December, Port Harcourt refinery should be upstream, it will be. Because it has to do with supervision and the release of funds. Now we have got funds from this fuel subsidy. We can be channeled towards that. And we can have that realistically done. But I'm not holding brief for them. What I'm holding brief is that we need more to be done on the issue of these palliatives. The palliatives were just announced. And I believe Labour, having the feeling that the palliatives were just announced, they want to see the fee of the palliative within the next 1 month. Of course, in the next 1 month, nothing happens. I'm afraid maybe we'll go back to Mr. President and say, look, I have not seen the vehicles for the students. I have not seen the things being done in a manner that Nigerians will believe that the effect is minimizing, the negative effects is minimizing. So these are the things we have to wait. For Labour to have shaken in yesterday was because they want to hold the president on his words. For now, the president just came in. Subsidy has just been removed. He made a broadcast announcing palliatives and the announcing measures he will take to make sure that Nigeria, at the end of the difficulties, smile. It would not be premature for Labour to have called strike yesterday. So I think that's the wisdom they call off. But if these windfalls do not come, and that's why I say that apart from the initiatives of the federal government under President Bola Tinubu. It is important for various state governors and local governments to move in now. I heard of the IBS state governor. Yes, I heard of IBS state governor increasing minimum wage to 40,000. This is one of the steps in the right direction. Because something has come extra from the fuel subsidy. It is for them. They also can replicate by launching mass transit buses in the states for rural transportation to chicken. So this can now reduce the effect on us. So that is my comments on it.
Well, former...
As to the issue of, if you want, you always want me to give you a definite answer. As to the issue of definite answer on the Port Harcourt, let's hold the president to his promise in December. December is just by the corner.
Well, thank you for that definitive answer, Micheal Aondoakaa, former Attorney General and Minister of Justice. Thank you so much for joining us on Newsday this afternoon.